I think it's Alva who's with us tonight. And this is our Wednesday night channeling, number 174. The title is Strength. It's when we usually think of strength, we think of physical strength. This is all, so there is also mental strength, or should we say the strength to rise above the weaknesses of the physical illusions that tell us of false pleasure and power. All strength comes from the one source of all that is. Physical strength is using the power of the pure spirit through the mind with the thought as the prism. Mental strength is using the life force to choose a kind of thought directed to accomplish the desired results. Weaknesses is the result of omission. Choosing to turn from using the strength of pure spirit available. We do choose our every thought, word, and deed, whether conscious or unconscious. Remember to remember that moods, attitudes, desires, and thoughts, and the strength of emotion are put with them, give them more or less power to affect your life. We choose the strength of how much of it through our thought. We choose the strength and how much of it through our thought. The emotion can give us strength, power, or the lack of it. The strength we use to change our habit patterns comes from within, from the life force flowing from the source of all that is. The quality and quantity comes from the free will of the individual expression of life. What we give out, we get back, multiplied. Weakness or strength is your choice. Choose weakness or strength is your choice moment by moment. Good evening, my dear ones. It is indeed a pleasure to be with you. Don has given me the charge of the door today while he is elsewhere at this time. He is teaching another class in another group and has given me charge of this group. I welcome you in God's love, realizing and reminding you that all comes from God's love. Love is the key to all things. Love is the answer to any problem. Divine love will solve any problem, any ills, anything that you wish to change. Our subject matter tonight on strength is a little strange, maybe, for you to think about, but we think of spiritual strength and how strong you are in your physical body. But what really matters, my dear ones, in a metaphysical sense, is how strong you are in spirit. And that determines how strong your mind is. Your mind is the chooser. Your mind is the channel that life force works through with the prism of thought. And you choose through your thoughts, using the mind as the channel that channels the life force through you to this physical plane. As you realize and understand the power that is available to you, your strength grows and grows. Your strength of spirit is what is most important to us. But you see, your strength of spirit comes from your strength of choosing your thoughts. Your free will is involved. God has given you the freedom to do with as you will with your life. And when you can give this will back to Him completely, then you are manifesting Him in the physical. And you may not have thought of it in this way, but you do have the freedom to do and be as you will. When you are thinking positive, constructive, and loving thoughts, you are giving Him your will. You are doing His work for Him. When you are thinking other types of thoughts, you are going against the grain of life. And you know, most of you here, that you have chosen these so-called negative thoughts through habit patterns for the most part. Habit patterns of thinking that do rule your life, and you are doing something about changing them. I tell you, my dear ones, there is nothing more important in your life than to learn to love yourself and to love God. And that is learning to love life. But before you can do this, you do have to change your thinking patterns, because these thinking patterns, my dear ones, do come through. They come through and rule your life. You may not realize this. You may not realize to the extent that your habit patterns do rule your life. But it is true, and you must come back to this time and time again. Do you have the strength? Do you have the power? Do you have the understanding to choose your thoughts on a daily basis to make your life come out in a positive, constructive, and loving way? If you were to have some kind of meter attached to your thinking processes and could measure your negative thoughts and your positive thoughts, your constructive thoughts and your destructive thoughts, how do you think that it would come out at the end of the day? How do you think that you would add up the score? You might give this some thought, because it is this that makes the difference from where you are on your physical plane. Make no mistake that your physical plane is a plane of negativity. It is a plane that is not very light, except for those who give light from themselves and lighten up their area by letting the light shine from within them. Realizing that you do have to change your thinking in order to learn to love, then it is very important that you keep track of your thoughts. Be aware of how you are doing. Self-awareness is a very important thing. Learning to add the score, learning to be aware of what you are doing through the day takes practice. And when you learn to keep track of your thoughts, when you learn to be aware, then you are more in charge of your life. You can be more in charge of your life because you do make your life what it is. You do create your own reality with your every thought, word, and deed. Make no mistake about this. You cannot blame it on others. And the strength that you have is the strength that you build up. There are those on your dimension that do not believe in God, that do not believe in life after death, and so they go about their day-to-day living in a nonchalant, who cares attitude. And I'll get mine and to heck with everyone else. You know some of these people, and you come in contact with them. They need God's love to awaken them to the truth, but you cannot do it. And they will only come to that awakening when they are ready. Some have to go a long ways down in order to be able to come to that awakening. You who come to these classes, you who are trying, who are striving to do God's will, is one of your sayings, which is good in a way and not so good in another way, because God's will is that you have free will. God's will is that you have the freedom to learn through making mistakes, through having the trouble and problems. And to some on your plane, this would sound bad. This would sound terrible. But I tell you, it is true. Those of you who are striving to awaken to the truth of life, those of you who are awakening day by day, a little at a time, and sometimes you slip back, and we do not condemn you for this. God does not condemn you. My dear ones, you are the only ones who condemns yourself. And this is a big mistake, because you spend time thinking negative thoughts and stand in the way of your own progress when you feel guilty or self-condemnation. I would have you to remember this. You stand in the way of your own progress by feeling guilty or self-condemnation. Mark your mistakes well so that you do not trip over them again, or at least know when you do trip over them, and immediately send God's love into them and cancel them out and go on your way in a happy, positive, constructive way. There is no way of getting around to the fundamental, let us see, that is a word that you may not like, to the basic truths, to the foundation truths, to the truths that help you to build on day by day understanding. And as you do this, as you take a little understanding and add it to your foundation and build it in well and strong and solid so that you remember it, so that it is yours, then you can build more on it. And this opens the door to bring more light into your understanding. You see, whenever you have an enlightenment and you act upon it, when you receive it and know that it is true and act upon this enlightenment, then you open more doors, more light comes to you. But you must build it into your foundation strong and solid before it is yours to keep. And it is important that you learn to keep what you acquire in your understanding. It is important to receive the enlightenment, but it is very important that you keep it, that you hang on to it, that you make it yours and make it solid in your understanding. There are those who receive enlightenment and get flashes of wonderful, beautiful things and then lose them. And it is a good idea when you get a flash of enlightenment that is new to you or that seems new, to write it down, to make it a record on your physical plane, and then go back to it and study it, and to realize the reality of its truth. And by doing this, you build it into your foundation. You build it into your understanding. And this gives you the spiritual strength that you need. My dear ones, when you have the spiritual strength enough, you can literally remove mountains. You can levitate huge rocks. You can do almost anything, or should we say, you can do literally anything that you desire. It is the understanding that makes it so for you. Now maybe you do not understand how your understanding can give you this power, this strength to do this. If I were to ask you how this is so, what would your answer be? Understanding the laws of life gives you the understanding of all that is, the ability to overcome gravity, the ability to overcome time and space, the ability to understand that there is no good or evil. And when you have this, then you do not work against yourself. You do not work against yourself to weaken yourself. When you have guilt, negative thoughts, especially about yourself or anyone else, because you're all one life, and it all comes back to having negative thoughts about yourself. If you have negative thoughts about anyone else, it's a boomerang. It comes back because there is only one life in all of life. You see, when you have those negative thoughts, you are weakening your foundation. You're weakening what you may have gained. And so it is important that you keep alive, keep in mind as you go through the day, even when you're driving, and this is where so many of you do trip up when someone is not driving as you think they should. And so this puts a little fear in you because they're putting your life in jeopardy. This is not true in the ultimate sense, because your life is in the hands of God. Your life is in your hands, my dear ones, because you are God. When this understanding that you are God comes to you, then this is the understanding that removes mountains. This is the understanding that brings about divine love into your understanding. And when you have the power of love, then you have all power, because love is a substance of all that is. You were created out of God, and God is love. You are love. And when you realize this, then you are working with your own substance. You are working with the grain of life that you are, instead of against yourself. This has been said to you many times, and maybe you tire of hearing it. But my dear ones, until you have this understanding within yourself, then you have not heard it, really heard it. You have not heard it with the inner ear. If you could have heard what has already been said this evening with the inner ear, you would have the power to remove mountains. You would have the power to levitate huge boulders. There are few that you have learned on this plane who have the power to levitate these things. And in past times you have had this power and have misused it and have lost it. You are on your way now to gaining it back. And I tell you, you are in this new age to have this opportunity to gain this understanding of divine love that will give you this power, that will bring about the understanding that you are divine love. And as divine love, you cannot go against your nature. When you have the consciousness, the real consciousness of love, then, and it is built within you, then all things are possible. All things are possible. As I speak with you this evening, I see that some of you are hearing a little bit of this, and some of you are hearing more. And I use the word strength so that it might reach your conscious physical awareness. The strength of your physical body is gained through exercising your body, developing the muscles, and so you have strength. You have more strength. The more that you use your physical body in the correct way, the more strength that you have. The more that you use your thoughts through the channel of the mind to think loving thoughts, the more strength that you have in spirit. And the more strength that you have in spirit, when it is built into your consciousness, is yours to keep. It is yours to keep because you understand, you realize who you are. The realization of your divinity is another thing that will give you this inner strength and power. The realization that you are divine. You have been programmed and conditioned over long periods of time that you're only human and that you can only do this and can only do that. After all, you are only human. This is what you have been programmed to think, and your subconscious has believed it, and believing it, it is acted upon it, and does not allow you to go beyond those boundaries. I tell you, you need to re-educate and retrain your subconscious that you are limitless and that you can go beyond any boundaries, because there are no boundaries in true reality. They're only in your concepts, and those are illusions. This is the illusions of the physical plane that you're told so much about, the illusions that you are limited, the illusions that you can go so far, and that is all. I tell you, my dear ones, no matter where you are in your growth, in your physical position in life, no matter what your body looks like, no matter where you think you are limitless. You're without limit. Without limit. You can literally move mountains. I say this to you to demonstrate to you the truth of your being. And until someone says this to you in all earnestness, and until you hear it with the inner ear, until you accept it as true, then you are still believing in limitation. And as you believe, so you are. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So this is involved with your belief in yourself. I tell you, spend some time each day with your belief. Spend some time in learning to love yourself, no matter what your body looks like, no matter what your mind can think, or how intellectual you are. This does not matter. What matters is how much you love. And you begin with yourself. We have been programmed and conditioned to think little of ourselves. And so we do. You can change your thinking. You can change your understanding by making the decision to change this understanding, for you literally are what you think. So, do you want a better life? Do you want something that will make you happy? Do you want peace of mind? Do you want fulfillment in your life? And I tell you, take the time each day to spend with yourself and the God within you, to be alone, and He will teach you how to love. The God within you, not this channel or anyone else on the outside of you, can teach you this, but the God within you can teach you this. Spend some time alone and be in that stream of love that is continually streaming from the Godhead, and you are a part of that stream, whether you know it or not. You are in the stream. You may think that you have stepped out of the stream, but this is only a concept. If you stepped out of the stream of life, you would not exist. You can sit on the bank and do nothing with your life, but you are still in the stream of life. It is your choice to be or not to be, and I think that was part of your class last week. Should we stop at this time and give you opportunity to ask questions? And I encourage you to ask the questions so that we can have a fuller class, so that you can have a greater understanding. Yes. Speak louder, please.
In reference to the difference between striving for better peace and the knowingness of our limitlessness and struggling with it, could you shed some light on a little more definition between how we can take more of the path of striving to the straining, which seems so much easier based on our past condition?
You're using the word driving. You're not talking about the automobile. Striving to be more than you are. Is this what you're saying?
To be who we truly are.
Yes.
See, I know the truth, but I am not living it yet because I'm struggling too much with it. Striving for that oneness with God.
Let me correct you in saying you do not know the truth. If you knew the truth, you would be living it. Our language is very fluid, shall we say, and when you strive, that denotes strain. And the master teacher said, resist not evil, but overcome evil with good. And knowing your nature and how you go about doing things with great zest and everything, it is possible, and I would have you check this with yourself, that you are trying too hard. It is important that you learn to be relaxed and at peace and allow the God within you to work through you. It is important for everyone to have that peace of mind and to not strain to make it happen, but as Donald says, relax and let it happen. Knowing all the time that you are moving toward that consciousness of oneness with God. And I may have used this striving incorrectly in the message tonight, but it is incorrect to strain at doing this. When, to answer your question more fully, I will say to you, learn to love more fully. This will give you the key to the kingdom. Divine love is the key to the kingdom. And when you strain to gain some understanding, then you're working against yourself. And even though you do gain some understanding, it will be much easier to love and open the doors, to study what divine love truly is. You have the book on the greatest thing in the world. There are many other attributes besides those 9, but those 9 are enough to start with. And if you would study those 9 attributes of divine love and put them into practice in your life, then you will find that you are aware, much more aware, of the God within you. Does this make sense to you?
Yeah, I do.
Are there any other questions this evening?
I have a question.
Yes.
I don't know if it was just my perception or this is really a cycle of life. It appears to me as I get older, and some of the people that are its generation older than myself, I see them struggling more with their life than they ever did before, with just I don't know, maybe their identity and what they believe in, and a lot of things that I was taught when I was a child by these people are now things that they're doing, and they're not realizing that they're doing them. And it almost appears that as you get older, you have to face up to your problems more. I don't exactly know what it is, but it just seems like when these people that are getting older, the generation, are having a harder time coping with their reality or something. Is that just my perception, or is there really a cycle that we go through every age?
My dear one, let us use the word seems to start with. And when I answer your questions, do not feel that I am going against what you are saying, because I truly do understand. You are partly correct in what you say and partly incorrect. Now, what you see in the older generation is your raise in consciousness. When before your consciousness was raised to the point where it is now, you would still see the same thing but not think of it in the same way. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, thank you.
And that's not all of the answer now. The other is true, that when those do get older, those individuals become older, they feel a little more insecure. This is possible in some individuals. And so they are making it more difficult on themselves. Does this help your understanding?
Yeah. So then there's 2 parts to that. Just to avoid that happening to to myself and the people that I'm around as we grow older. It's just to keep expanding our consciousness so that we don't feel insecure when we get older. Is it easier when we're younger to make those changes? It seems like when you get a little bit older, it's harder.
Yes, it is, because you're more crystallized in your patterns, in your habit patterns of thinking. You are more into the patterns, and it is well that you have started at your young age, and those who are young, and it makes us very happy and pleased when we see the younger ones coming in now to learn and to grow and to grasp the understanding that will be with them the rest of their life. As you grow into your spiritual enlightenment, as you go through your days with your hands full of your work and your child and many other things, if you can keep that beacon of love ahead of you, remembering that love is the key to all things, and patience is one of the largest attributes of love that you deal with on this physical plane. Humility is another one. Humility gives you the understanding of who you truly are. When you understand that you are divine, then you do not have to prove yourself to anyone. You only prove it to yourself by learning to love, and prove it is not the correct way to say it, but you know it, and you build it into your consciousness. When we are tempted to lose our temper, when we grow tired and allow ourselves to think and say things that we wished we had not, this is the time to be aware of and to stop and gain back your understanding of who you truly are. Do not allow the world to pull you down. The world is as it is, but you live in your consciousness, and your consciousness is not of the world, but how you react and respond and handle the things around you of this world. This is very important for you to realize and to understand. Are there other questions this evening? The questions that you could ask are many, and some do have questions that they hold back. But when you exert yourself to ask the questions and have the humility to speak up and ask questions, then do you get much more from this class. For example, there are questions in this room that could help everyone in the room, from a few individuals. There are questions that they would ask could help everyone. You see, when you ask a question, it is much better because it comes from you in the physical, instead of my just preaching to you, in a sense, from this plane. It brings it down to your level and helps you to understand more on your level how to handle this. I will give you time to think about that.
I have a question.
Yes.
There is a book called Watch Your Dream.
And my understanding of it is that it was a channeled book about dreams, and they talk in that book about the different cycles that your life goes through. Like every 7 years, there is a certain cycle that comes up that you are now should be progressing on to some important things in your life, whether they be spiritually or physically. And particularly when you come like to the cycle of the 35th year is when you start working on those spiritual things that perhaps you've ignored up until then or forgotten. How much of that is fact, or is that a misunderstanding that I had some in the book?
For the general populace of your planet, there is truth in this. But you are not limited to what someone says you should be at a certain age. You see, there are these young ones who are coming in that are younger than 35, and they are getting some of these things. And there are those who wait until they're 50 or more, until they awaken. Yes, the cycles are there for the masses, but you in this circle are not of the masses. You are in the world, but you are learning to be not of the world. And my dear Stephen, I see that I have been using this word striving because I almost used it again. And I apologize for this, because striving is not a good word to use. You do strive to have a better life, but it denotes the word of straining. And I feel that a better word would be growing and learning, moving into a better consciousness. Did this help your understanding of the cycles, my dear?
Yes, it did. And I believe that I was just trying to verify if that was actual information, because it did say that this is for the, those that have ignored or forgotten their spiritual selves up until.
Yes. So many wait until they have their children raised, and maybe they have left home, and they feel a lack. And so then they do seek God and the understanding of their divinity because of this lack. But you need not wait until then, because you can bring this understanding in with you. You can awaken much earlier, and you will find the generations that are coming in are bringing this understanding in with them, and more of them will have it at a very young age, and they will be asking questions that need answers. And this is good.
Thanks, you. If I may share something, I read this recently, and it was a wonderful example of the differences of when you think of something as a struggle and when you change one way you look at it, your perspective of it, and that is in the well-known metamorphosis that takes place with a caterpillar,
Yes.
Cocoon.
Yes.
and then it works its way out. A lot of people have interpreted and they put it in the science books even as struggling to come out, when it is not a struggle. It is a work that needs to be done. And then when that butterfly finally breaks through, it is strong enough to take flight, rather than having something happen that makes it come out before it's raised, before
Yes.
you know.
Yes. And the chick pecking its way out of the eggshell is the same thing. It gives it strength, and it gives the ability to come forth with that strength. And the eagle in the nest flaps its wings to develop the strength. And you, as individuals, can find yourself flapping your wings of your spiritual understanding by watching yourself closely and going over and over the things that you have learned, to build them into your understanding, and watching yourself, that when a situation comes up similar to what you have learned, that you do not fall back in the old rut, that you replace it with a new understanding. Just as I have mentioned the word strive, I will remember to use the different words than this, because it denotes tension and straining. Are there any other questions this evening? I can see in your minds the exercise that you do seems to be tension, release, to develop your muscles. But I am, and the chick who pecks its way out of the eggshell is developing its strength through working at it. But tension is another thing. Is it the thing that I am speaking of, trying to bring into your language in a correct way, is a fear tension, a tension of being afraid that you will not make it, being afraid that you will not be as good as someone else, being afraid that you will not be able to pay the mortgage or something else. And so you strain and strive to make the grade, so to speak. If you can truly realize that the God within you has all the answers, and go within to ask the God within you the answers, then you can do whatever you need to do in a relaxed and peaceful way, keeping that love before you and the power of love to bring the understanding that tension and straining is not the answer, but understanding and using that understanding and the enlightenment to bring about whatever you choose. Are there other questions this evening?